Welcome everyone, I'm Hannu, Product Team Coach, and today we are embarking on a journey to understand why user stories are useful in product development. Imagine you're a product team on a mission. Your customer faces a problem or several problems, and you have decided to solve it for them. But here's the question. For whom are we solving the problems? And why our product is the answer? How should we describe the problem? And who really is this elusive user? And how can we ensure our product provides real solutions and value to them? User stories are the key unlocking the answers. User stories help us empathize with our users' problems. They help identifying the real end users and show a path how they can extract value from our product. Alright, let's dive in and take a closer look at user stories. Before we delve deeper into user stories, let's address a fundamental question. Who are our users and how do we identify them? As the name user stories implies, we should tell about the users of our product and what they want to do with it. One common method to find the users is creating user personas. These are fictional but detailed representations of our ideal users. They help us to understand their needs, behaviors, and motivations. For example, let's say you're designing a travel app. You might create personas like frequent flyer Fiona, who travels for business, or adventure-seeking Alex, who loves exploring new destinations. To find these personas, you can use data analysis, conduct surveys, or interview potential users. The goal is to get inside their minds and empathize with their unique desires and experiences. Now that we understand why user stories matter, let's dive into their structure. At the heart of every user story lies a common framework. If you are a bit familiar with user stories, you may have seen this before. As a user, I want action, so that the benefit. The classic format spells out who the user is, what they want to do, and why it matters to them. But there's another approach too. Instead of focusing on the user, we can center our stories around the benefits they seek. In this case, it becomes, in order to achieve the goal, I need action. These two formats give us flexibility in expressing user needs, depending on the context and what makes the most sense for our project. Now let's put theory into practice with some real-world examples. These examples will help you see how user stories can be applied in various contexts. For an e-commerce website, you may create a user story like this. As an e-commerce customer, I want to save my payment information so I can complete purchases faster. Here's another example for a fitness app user. In order to track my fitness progress, I need a dashboard displaying my daily step count. These examples showcase the versatility of user stories. They can be created across industries and use cases. Now let's clarify a common source of confusion. The difference between product requirements and user stories. Product requirements are comprehensive documents that outline what the product should actually do. They often include technical details, design specifications, and functional descriptions. On the other hand, user stories are concise, user-centered narratives. They focus on who, what, and why. They are meant to facilitate communication and collaboration. A product requirement for a video streaming app might specify the app shall support streaming in 4K resolution. A user story for the same app could be, as a movie enthusiast, I want to watch movies in high quality 4K resolution to enhance my viewing experience. Note the difference. The streaming app shall support 4K resolution, but the user story for a movie enthusiast user helps us differentiate true movie fans from common movie watchers, who could be pleased with watching movies in lower resolution like 1080p. While product requirements are essential for development, user stories help teams empathize with users and keep the user's perspective and their benefits at the forefront. Now that we have a basic structure, let's dissect what makes user story truly effective. This is where invest criteria comes into play. The invest criteria helps product teams evaluate how structured and actionable their user stories are. The invest criteria includes 6 parameters for user stories. I for independent. Imagine each user story as a standalone entity, capable of delivering value on its own. If a story relies too heavily on others, it may become tangled in dependencies. N for negotiable. User stories should be open to discussion and negotiations. They're not set in stone. They evolve as you learn more about the users and their needs. V for valuable. The ultimate goal of each user story is to provide value to user. If it doesn't, it's time to reconsider its place in your backlog. E for estimable. To effectively plan and prioritize the work, you need to estimate the effort required for each user story. It's often unclear, but you have a hunch the effort being small, medium or large. That's a start anyway. S for small or suitable. Keep stories small and manageable. Large, complex stories can be challenging to complete within a single iteration. T for testable. Lastly, user stories should be testable. Clear acceptance criteria defines what done means, making it easier for your team to ensure quality. Earlier, we talked about how user stories should be testable as the letter T in the invest criteria. So what makes user stories pass the tests? In the world of user stories, there are 2 critical elements to ensure clarity and quality: acceptance criteria and the definition of done. Let's talk about acceptance criteria first. These are the specific conditions or requirements that a user story must meet in order to be considered complete. They're like a set of test cases that help ensure the story delivers the intended value. Imagine a user story for an e-commerce site. As a shopper, I want to filter search results by price. The acceptance criteria could include details like results must be filterable by minimum and maximum price, and the filter must work on desktop and mobile devices. So what does definition of done add to this? This is the set of criteria that a user story must meet to be considered done, ready for release. It encompasses not only the functional requirements, but also various quality, testing and integration aspects. Continuing with our e-commerce example, the definition of done might include code is reviewed and approved, unit tests pass successfully, and the feature is documented for end users. The key difference is that acceptance criteria are focused on what the user expects from the feature, while definition of done discovers aspects necessary for the story to be considered complete from a development and quality perspective. They both serve as checklists for team implementing and delivering the user story. Both are essential to ensure a user story not only functions as intended, but also meets the necessary quality and testing standards before it's considered done. With our user stories taking shape, the next challenge is prioritization. Imagine you have a backlog of these stories and you need to decide which ones to tackle first. If you're building a completely new product, user story mapping can be your guiding light. It helps you identify the most critical stories to include in your MVP or first product delivery. After your initial release, prioritize stories based on a combination of business value and the effort required. This ensures you're delivering the most value with the resources available. I have discussed user story mapping in one of my previous videos, so check the video from the link up here or in the description. Now let's explore how user story maps and product roadmaps can work together using now, next, later scheme. A user story map helps you visualize the journey of your user using your product. It's like a map where you plot the user stories in a logical sequence. A product roadmap, on the other hand, provides high-level view of your product's direction. For example, a simple product roadmap can be divided into now, next, and later phases. Here's how they connect. In your user story map, you allocate stories to these phases based on priority. Stories in the now phase are the most critical for your current development cycle, the MVP. Next stories are planned for future iterations, and later stories represent long-term goals. This integration ensures that user stories align with your product's strategic vision, allowing you to build what's most important now and plan for what's next. Now, crafting user stories might seem straightforward, but it comes with its own set of challenges. Ambiguity can creep in, making it challenging to define clear stories. Without user feedback, you might be navigating in the dark, and technical jargon can create a communication gap. However, recognizing these challenges is the first step overcoming them. Before we conclude, let's explore some best practices that will empower you to write effective user stories. Keep your stories laser focused on user needs, avoiding scope creep. Use clear and concise language that everyone on your team can understand, avoiding technical jargon. Don't forget to define clear acceptance criteria. They serve as your roadmap to what done means. Collaboration is key. Work closely with stakeholders to refine and validate your stories. Also be sure to use the invest criteria to evaluate the quality of your stories. And note that writing good user stories takes a good amount of practice. No one masters user stories right from their first stories. Don't give up. Take a look of your past stories and how they were actually implemented, and then try to improve constantly. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground today, from understanding your users through personas to distinguishing between product requirements and the user stories. We've gone through the anatomy of user stories and discussed some helpful tools to fine-tune user stories, like the invest criteria, acceptance criteria, and definition of done. And we've seen how user story maps can be seamlessly connected with product roadmaps, making your product development journey more organized and user-centric. Remember, user stories are not just a tool, they are your bridge to delivering value to your users. If you found this video insightful, don't forget hit the like button, share it with your colleagues and subscribe to the channel. I'm always eager to hear your thoughts and answer your questions. So please leave comments below. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.